Welcome back to the shop next door. Today we're going to talk about subframe connectors. Mustangs, as well as several other popular muscle cars, are unibody cars. That means the front frame rails and rear frame rails are not tied together. It's not a full frame car. They're tied together with the body. What this means is when the car is accelerating, braking, cornering, whatever, going over rough roads, the body flexes and takes up some of that. Now, the manufacturers designed that on purpose for NVH and weight reduction, cost probably, whatever. A bunch of stuff that we're not worried about. What we're worried about is the performance of our car and making sure our suspension works the way it should, making sure all the power can get to the rear wheels the way it should, and making the car feel like a performance car. So let's get under here. I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. Here's our front frame rails, our front subframe goes up, provides structure for the front end, and all the suspension, even the front cross member is all tied into this where the engine bolts to. And here's our rear frame rails. They go up and over the tunnel. It provides structure for where the shock mounts. Obviously the leaf spring gets part of its structure from here. The bolt actually bolts right through the frame. And all we're gonna do is tie them together with a piece of metal. Now there's a bunch of pre-made, already fabricated subframe connectors on the market out there. There's really, really cheap ones that you just bolt in. They don't fit the greatest. A bunch of mid-tier ones that are designed to be welded in. There's some with square tubes, there's some with round tubes, there's some that actually form to the floorboard of the car so that they look like they're meant to be there. There's some really high dollar ones that have a bunch of different tabs and mounting points, and they're triangulated, all kinds of fancy stuff. We're not going the pre-made route. I'm gonna make my own. That's what I prefer to do. It's also the cheapest way to do it. On this car, we're gonna be using some 1 3/4 square tube, 1/8 inch thick for our subframe connectors, and some 1/8 inch thick tabs on either end. I'll show you what we're gonna do. So I've got the tube clamped in place where it's gonna be. It's laying flat on this rear frame rail. I've already gone and cleaned all this up for future welding. This is basically where this is gonna be. What's gonna happen is I'm gonna cut out a tab, it goes around this hole, weld it to the tube, weld it to the car, and that'll be it. Up front, I'm gonna run the tube right up to the back of the subframe. As you can see, it doesn't line up, it's way low. What I will do is come back about 16 inches, do a pie cut, tilt it upwards, weld my pie cut back up. I'm going to cut out a plate to reinforce this because this is just sheet metal, like I said. Weld it in, and there's the subframe connectors. Almost forgot, down here in the end of this tube, we're not just going to leave it like this. That would look terrible. We'll go ahead and put a nice curved radius, close this up, and so it'll look like we're at least attempting to look a little professional. Now, is this the easy way? No, not at all. You could spend some money, buy the subframe connectors, and just weld them in. However, most of the subframe connectors for Mustangs are for 65 all the way to 73, and as you know, a 65 Mustang is not even close to the same as a 73 Mustang. It just happens to be that the frame rails are close enough that they can do that. I would much prefer to make my own, nice and tight to the bottom of the car. Honestly, it's just a pretty low tier fabrication project, and it's awesome to be able to say that you built something yourself instead of just bought something off the internet and bolted it on. So I'm gonna go ahead and make some marks, start getting some cuts done, and start fitting this thing in place. I've got my pie cut made. It bent to approximately the right amount. I'm gonna clamp it underneath the car and make sure it's exactly lined up to where it needs to be before I tack it in. I went ahead and did my cuts on the end to cap it. I'll go ahead and weld it all up at the same time as long as everything's fitting right. So I got the subframe connector fully welded out. I'm gonna let that cool before I go grinding on it. I went and cleaned up the bottom of the car earlier in the video, and I just went in and sprayed a little bit of rust reformer paint above where the subframe connector is going to go, because later on when I do undercoat the car, I'm not going to be able to get above the subframe because it's right up against the floor. So just clean it up, put something on there. Now I'm going to cut out the last two pieces of metal that we need for the tabs that attach to the front and the back. This piece is for the rear. This just a plate sits right on top of the subframe connector right about here. Going to cut this out and put a few holes for plug welds, and this piece goes on the front subframe and bends around like that and just provides extra thickness to that so it doesn't tear up the subframe or anything like when we hit a bump or something. For the metal, I'm going to be using this scrap piece of 1/8 inch thick steel. This is actually a staircase thing. Used to have stairs. You absolutely do not have to buy fresh new metal to make stuff like this. If I could have found 1 3/4 square tube or even 1.5 inch or 2 inch, I would have made it work, but I could not find any after a couple weeks of search at Marketplace and stuff. So I went and bought 2 pieces of metal. 2 pieces of 1 3/4, 1/8 inch thick, 48 inch long square tube was right at $90 at my local metal supplier. The cheapest subframe connectors that you can buy are they might be from CJ Pony or something. They're like $100 plus shipping. So I could have bought those for about the same price, but they definitely don't fit as well. And honestly, they look cheap. I don't like the way they look. Anything else is way more expensive than that. So I definitely believe building our own is the way to go. Before I finish out those tabs, I think I'm gonna go ahead and sand the top of this tube and my welds that you just saw me grind down. That way I can throw a coat of paint on top of these tubes, because once they're in the car, the top of this is never gonna get any sort of coating on it. When I finally undercoat the car, I'm not gonna be able to get to the top. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now and work on the tab, and we're almost done, I think. Cleaned up front and rear. Now I'm going to pop a few holes in this for plug welds, and I'm going to bend this once it cools off to fit the front frame rails. If you're wondering about this drill bit I just used, this crazy looking step thing, they're Mach Hyper Step drill bits. They're one of the few expensive things I've got in this shop, but man, they're so worth it. That just breezed through that 1/8 inch steel like nothing. They look like this. I think this kit now, they are drill bits. I've broken a few, you see, but it's so hard to smoke these. Like, as you just saw, I didn't use any lube or anything like that, and it just cuts right through metal. I don't know what they make this stuff out of, but these particular drill bits, they work good. Perfect. So you saw me tack this plate in. I've got a little bit of a bevel on here. I didn't show that on camera. I just hit it with a grinder so it matches the same angle. Got like a weird backwards tilt to it. Now all that's left to do, take the rear tab, set it in place, and we'll tack it to the tube. Then we'll take this all down and full weld this, and then we'll put it all back. Full weld this piece of plate right there, tack the tube to the plate, then full weld this to the frame, and then we're done. Welding upside down on the floor on old dirty metal isn't the easiest, but it's not too bad. That weld's okay, that weld's okay. This weld got a little crazy. So gotta grind it down, it'll be all right. It's underneath the car. Before I put the subframe connector back in here, I want you to take a look at this frame rail. See how beat up it is? It's all wonky from 50 years of hitting the ground and rocks and stuff. This has got 1,000 spot welds all in it from the structure on the other side and the inside pieces. This is not flat at all. So what's going to happen is when I put the subframe connector with the tab up there, there's going to be parts that are elevated off of this frame rail. And so what I'll do is I'll tack both sides, or probably I'll just full weld each end, and then I will use the hammer and hammer it down as close as I can to matching the contours of this beat up frame rail. These old cars are not perfect, man, and they've had a lot of abuse over the years, so you're gonna have to tweak and modify things as you go along. Both sides of this are a little bit different. Like I couldn't make one side and then just reverse it for the other side. It's not gonna work. They're a little bit longer, shorter, angles a little different. It's just how it is. We'll go ahead and get the subframe connector clamped into place and go ahead and full weld it onto the car. Alright, it's tacked onto the car. Now it's time to full weld her out. As you can see, this is like a little high right here. So is this. I'll probably throw a couple more tacks on here somehow and hammer this to the shape of this frame rail. And then I'm going to do a weld to here, weld here, weld here, weld here, and then fill in the plug welds. On this, I'm just going to do a U shape down, across, and up. Can't get to the top side. It'll be more than strong enough. It'll be all right. All right, well, that's it. Subframe connectors are done. Let's go ahead and take a final look. All right, well, that wraps up the build of the subframe connectors on this 1972 Mustang Mach 1. Do you need subframe connectors? Absolutely not. You do not need them. All right, there's plenty of like muscle cars running around with no subframe connectors at all with 500-600 horsepower. If you're looking for a cheap, somewhat easy modification. Subframe connectors do provide a difference that you can feel. The car feels way more solid driving down the road. Like I said at the beginning, it's hard for me to put into words the difference it makes, but it does make a significant difference. Also, between buying your own or buying some pre-made and building your own, I would suggest, at least for a car like this, one that's not ever going to be a perfect restoration, go ahead and try to make your own. It's not that hard, at least it isn't for classic Mustangs. Just some square tube. I matched the tube diameter to the rear frame rails. The rear frame rails are right at 1.75 inches, so that's what I picked. You can even use scrap if you can find some scrap. Not a big deal. That's what I use for the tabs that attach this. So if you found this video helpful or entertaining, or if you just got anything out of this at all, go ahead and hit the like, subscribe, all that jazz. It really helps my channel grow. I'm on a pretty upward pace here. So if you're interested in classic Mustang restoration and modification, there's plenty more to come on this car. I think next time around you see this car, it'll be getting its first bit of work in the paint booth. So thanks for watching Shop Next Door. My name's Buddy, and I'll see you next time.